we are so hard on ourselves that we tend to take on some of the reasoning, like in our mind, even just subconsciously, we tend to believe that it's kind of our fault to a certain extent. And so we need to unwrap that as part of that process.
Welcome to Leading to Profit. I'm your host, Kevin Bees, and I've dedicated my career to empowering business leaders like you with the leadership skills, performance psychology they need to build thriving businesses. Are you ready for immediately actionable strategies from world-class profit leaders? Let's dive in. This is Leading to Profit. Welcome back to episode 270 of Leading to Profit. Today we have Kevin White. Kevin has a long background as a technology leader, but his own Act 2 in life has led him to prioritizing fulfillment in life. Kevin works now as a leadership consultant and business therapist located in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. So Kevin, welcome to the episode today.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Me too. We had a really great connection maybe a couple of months ago now. So I've been looking forward to getting this conversation. Tell us about your work there. It's not everyone who moves internationally and sets up a new life. So tell us about the work of being a leadership consultant and business therapist.
Sure, yeah. Well, boy, I guess I don't want to go a long ways back, but really both of our moms died of cancer in 2006 and 7. My wife's mom was in a business, and her and her husband had a pretty decent sized business, several different businesses actually. And so really the last 6 months with her, the whole journey with her of 6 years of fighting cancer really defined a lot of what we did for the next few decades, or the next 2 decades. It hasn't been 3 yet, thank goodness. But anyway, so yeah, that's what got us started. And then just our curiosity around, what really is being fulfilled in life. Like she had everything, she was well off. She had a great business. She loved her work. And yet, and she had a great relationship. There were some things I won't go into, but still, what does it take to have that and to be happy and to, work through the things that come up? And so that's what got us started. And the journey has been, first was my wife wanting to learn a lot more herself. And then I was an addict way back then. So she brought me along. I got going on doing the work myself. And then eventually we started helping other people.
Okay, so then typically you help people, you mentioned the addiction. Is that what you help them with?
I suppose so. Like I've been known to say almost everyone is addicted, right? And that was kind of my journey and learning about addiction. Addiction is like, and actually people say this to me all the time. Well, I'm addicted to coffee or I'm addicted to work, right? Like those are kind of low level addictions. But yes, I help people with, if you think about what addiction is coping with something that doesn't give you fulfillment and trading it for something that would. And so in that sense, yes, I do help people with that. So we help people with is aligning, like my wife and I, we work with people that are in a calling-based business that, they've been called to do something. They know that. And a calling-based business is not the same as something like, you see an opportunity in the market, there's a need, you build a product for that, and you go after producing that product and getting it in the marketplace. That's a little different than, okay, I've been called to be a massage therapist, or I've been called to create, an alternative drink to Coca-Cola or whatever, right? Like, obviously, it could be the same thing, same type of business as a normal business, but we're helping people that have been called to something, and then all bets are off. Like, the rules are not followed. It's kind of like living in Mexico.
Yeah, amazing. And so let's talk more about this in the context of business owners and business leaders, because you mentioned at some level everyone is addicted and people are doing things that they're doing something to cope when they're not fulfilled. They're trading it for something that would. And so that may be the case. They're unfulfilled in their business or their relationships or even how they feel about themselves. So then the thing that they're trading it for, it could be, like you said, coffee, it could be sugar, it could be alcohol, or I guess pornography, or any
Yes.
other number of things. So for everyday business owners, how can we identify then if we do have an addiction, if there is something we're not fulfilling, like how do we get to the root cause and work through that?
The question to start with is, do I have joy in my life? Like, do I really feel at the end of the day, on a normal day, do I feel happy. And we all have down days, so I'm not trying to apply this to a day where, some of us have more melancholy than others, and that's part of life. I'm talking about like you have a good day, everything goes the way that you want it to, even to the point of coming home and with your relationship and everything. Do you feel joy? Do you connect to that? Do you feel like you're present with your life? Or is there like some nagging sensation behind in your mind, like, oh man, I really want to do something else, or I wish this was true. I wish I had this car or something, something else. And then if there's any destination thinking left, then I think we could be coping.
Yeah, okay. And so that may sound like then, hey, I wish I had this car or this house or this boat or I wish I had this experience. Could it even be like, hey, I wish I just had more time in my life?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we can be addicted to busyness. I mean, that's definitely an American thing. Like I don't know Australia, you're on your side of the world, but like I remember when I quit my job and I was addicted to work and probably addicted to being busy, both. Suddenly not having all the time I needed to do whatever I wanted was like overwhelming. Like, oh wow, what am I gonna do? So yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, okay. And so if we are addicted to busyness, is there a solution to that?
Yeah, I mean, for everything along this line, maybe spending some time alone with yourself and listening to what's there, like really listening and paying attention to what your thoughts are. I mean, if you have a spiritual practice like meditation or prayer or whatever that you already do, I would say change the environment. I remember early in my own journey when I started to like, we had young kids. It was a lot of business. And what I did is I decided to take a walk in my lunch hour every day. And I went to this clearing in the middle of the woods. It's like a sand area with some trees in the middle. I'd sit under the tree and I think. And then that was the beginning for me.
And how did that change things for you? What happened?
Started really hearing, I mean, the voice was very small, but I started to really value my own thoughts and like my own time and even just the beauty of the world, which can help a lot. And I started to like learn to love myself, love the possibility of me alone, which is a good place for us to be.
Yeah, that's very powerful, very powerful. Let's talk about some of these feelings then, because I guess as a business owner, we can be facing all sorts of emotions on a daily basis. There's ups and downs. One minute things are going great, you get some sales. The next thing, your accountant hits you with a tax bill you weren't expecting, and your customer doesn't pay. So, how do we manage the emotions around that so that we can actually function better in business?
Yeah. I do have to warn most of my advice here really does apply to calling based business people, but I'll try to stay very low key. So I mean, there's a book called The Emotion Code that I start people with. What this book and the writer theorizes is that we store emotions. So think about a normal day. You have all these emotions. Like say you go to a movie, you might experience like 20 different emotions, right? They come and they go. That's normal. The same thing is going to happen in your daily, just in a normal day. You're going to have all this different emotion and you process those normally. That can be just through your own mind, through your own heart. It also could be by the fact that you're running, if you're anxious or you have a workout routine or you do yoga or whatever. Like all those things are viable ways to process emotions. But occasionally, like when we get really, really stressed, we actually cause emotions to be trapped in our body. The first emotion, so my sister got me started on this. It was around the time my dad had a heart attack, and her and I had a lot of time together. And she she convinced me. At first I was like, no way, I don't want to do this. And then eventually she got me to do it. And the first emotion I released overnight, I stopped grinding my teeth.
Hmm.
So I was kind of like, okay, there's something here because I've done a ton of stuff to try to stop grinding my teeth. I'm wearing this mouth guard. I'm, trying to figure out all these different ways to continue to take care of myself. And I release one emotion and I'm done with that. Like, whoa, that's powerful. So I learned a lot more about it since then. But like what the book teaches is just, it's basically teaching you to connect to your own intuition. And for us guys, like women know how to be intuitive because it's like completely okay. My feeling is in a lot of business, in a lot of for a lot of guys in business, we're intuitive, but in other areas, we're not. We don't allow ourselves to be. So that can be obviously there can be exceptions to that, but um, so it teaches you how to just listen to your body and connect to your body and get like a yes or a no, and then you look at a chart and you figure out where the emotion is that you need to release and do that.
Okay. And this is the book by Bradley Nelson?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I may have read this book a long time ago, or another one written by him. I remember the name. And so, what's the method that we use to release this trapped emotion?
Well, he teaches you. I mean, personally, I don't follow what he wrote anymore because I don't. You can release anything at all, and like anything emotional or spiritual in your life by choosing it, right? So, because that's the whole point, is we have been given the power to choose in life, and we get to choose what we hang on to. I have found some things like forgiveness, for example. Like if someone's really hurt you, sometimes people come to me and they're like, I just don't think I can forgive them. And that's when I know that they need help. And meaning there is a place where we need some help to forgive, and if you're a believer, like if you're a Christian or something, that you follow the rules that are written, right? Like, okay, I could ask for some help, some grace to release this. But in any case, like we really do have the power to release anything. So that's how I do emotions for people now, is as long as they tell me, yes, I'm willing to release it, I release it for them or help them release the emotion. But what he teaches in the book is you use a magnet and you go from the point of your nose off to the back of your neck, like to the lower part of your neck over your head. And you pass it like 3 to 10 times. It depends on what it is. And he walks you through the details of that. I certainly think it's a good place to start. Like I think, especially if you haven't done work like this before, it's good to just get used to that, like to a mechanical way of acknowledging, okay, I had this emotion and now I've chosen to release it and notice what happens.
Quick question. Are you leaving profits on the table? Discover where hidden profit leaks are draining your business and how to stop them. Download my free report, Stop Leaking Profits, at www.profit.gifts, GIFTS, and start maximizing your profit today. Now, back to the show. And what does the magnet do in that process, I wonder? I know this isn't your your book, but I know you're mentioning it. So how does the process of running a magnet over your head stop?
Yeah, all I can do is theorize, but I
Yeah.
think what it's doing is it's a witness to your body, and a magnet has energy, right? So it's basically saying there's something that you're doing, which is part of it. Like we need to choose to do something to release something, and the other thing is like your body feels that you're choosing something because of that magnetic energy. But it could be much deeper than that. Like he would probably might even explain it in the book. I don't remember.
Yeah. But you found from your experience in doing that helps. So the person you mentioned, who needed help with forgiveness, that actually allowed them to deal with it. Because I would think on some level, if I couldn't forgive someone, it's because they've done something to me. There's some broken trust there. So I'd probably need to go and repair and have that conversation with them. Like how does just doing this help kind of resolve the
Oh,
connection?
oh, with forgiveness, that's a little tougher. But so I never pressure someone to forgive someone that they're not ready to. At the same time, if like say different religions have different beliefs here, but if you as a Christian, for example, if you don't forgive someone, then you're not forgiven. So it's kind of important. And so I always respect people's process and don't force that. But at the same time, like I've worked with a lot of people who have trauma in their past, and really what we learn in this whole space is that someone that say was abused 25 years ago very harshly, what actually happens is they become, to a certain extent, this is, you have to be careful on how I say this. We are so hard on ourselves that we tend to take on some of the reasoning, like in our mind, even just subconsciously, we tend to believe that it's kind of our fault to a certain extent. And so we need to unwrap that as part of that process. So it's partially, sometimes it might be that's the place we need to start, is forgiving ourselves about what we think about what happened.
So we go back and change our thoughts. And I guess the reality is, like you say, you're talking about something in the past, you know, you were much younger, you were much less resourced. So the things that you made that mean back then, if you go back and review them now, you're going to have a different perspective. You can bring different resources to deal with them. So you change your perspective of yourself or the situation.
It's good to, if possible, like understand like an abuser, typically there's abuse in their past. And so that's getting to a place of understanding, like, especially if it's someone that needed, like, their responsibility was to love you and they didn't do that very well, or they did quite the opposite. Um, it helps to learn to love ourselves. And then when we go and visit that time, we have a little more mercy and like perspective on why they would have possibly done what they did. And then even then, like it's good to be able to, especially for young, like I've always worked with adults. I don't work with children, but like I do work with adults on childhood issues sometimes. And really, the place we want to get to is where we can feel loved in spite of that person. Like we
Mm.
can connect ourselves to love and even love ourselves through the experience. And that's really the foundation we want to build on.
Okay, cool. So you spoke before about a calling based business. I wonder if you could tell us more about that. Like, what are some of the things that come up for people in those businesses?
So one thing that's really interesting about a calling-based business is you talked earlier about like a surprise tax expenditure or, different money things. And one thing I've noticed is sometimes calling-based businesses have a shift, like you're operating your business in a certain way and suddenly things shift sometimes pretty radically. Like everything that used to work is suddenly not working, that kind of thing. Pretty quickly, right? Like most of us don't have like years of business expenses saved up. So if you start to notice this over a period of a quarter, that might impact you money wise pretty quickly. So what I work on with people is really sitting with themselves and like understanding like what are some of the things that irritate me right now, like about my current business? What are some of the things that maybe I've been asking to get rid of or that I've been tolerating? And those can be some of the reasons. Like when we are telling the universe that we want to let go of something in our business, it listens and it gives us a new experience and it gives us new possibility. And then sometimes we're still holding on to the old, like from a monetary standpoint, or like, well, this is the way I always operated. Like I need to do this particular business process because I've always done that. Like for me, I've always like I had more than 2 decades in tech. And so for many years I hung on to like technical consulting. And so just more recently I've been letting that go and realizing that I was affecting my own business by doing that, by not really stepping into the consulting side of things.
Okay. So then, as we're listening to this, then we can be asking, hey, well, what have I been tolerating or what irritates me about business? And then if we do that, you're saying we will see new opportunities, like the way you described the universe kind of listens. So it will get presented with new opportunities based on what we're thinking about.
I think we're also sending usually information about what we want. It's just maybe we don't believe it.
Mm.
Like I want to work with this type of person. Like maybe I want to work with billionaires or something. And we think that kind of thought and we're like, no, that can't be true. Like what business do I have doing that, right? But we start putting little thoughts like that out there and those thoughts they create attraction. And then suddenly that's what's next.
Okay. That's so we really got to monitor our thoughts very carefully because if we put those negative thoughts out there, then that's what we will attract in return, which I guess a lot of us can be doing that. We can be thinking about our fears. We fear not having enough money. We fear our clients quitting on us. We, fear that we're going to be found out for not being good enough. And guess what? Or we find a way to manifest all of those things in some way. So, okay, that makes heap of sense. Kevin, the heart of the show, we originally started and we record life-changing questions. And we say the quality of the questions we ask ourselves impact the quality of the life that we lead. With that being true, I wonder what's one question you've asked that's had the biggest positive impact on your life or the life of the clients that you serve?
I like the one where I'm at the end of my life, kind of looking back and what would I regret if I didn't do this. And I think that really speaks a lot to our calling too. And another one would be similar thing in I found that like for myself in my own journey in my business that when I'm angry or super sad about, say, a client situation didn't work out the way I wanted it to, or, when I'm working on people, like it can be very hard sometimes, like you can see what their possibility is, but maybe they don't know yet. Anyway, I spend the question of like, why am I angry? What's behind my anger? What's behind my sadness has been really fruitful for me. Um, I found in sitting in those emotions that I am not adverse to them, that I get really strong messages about what I care about and what I really want to do.
Okay. So that's an important thing. Coming back to the addiction conversation you had, we can suppress those emotions by going and having the alcohol, the drugs, the sugar, the coffee, whatever it is. But what you're saying is, hey, if you have those feelings come up, don't kind of shove them down, don't suppress them with those things and distract yourself. Sit in the emotion and ask what's behind them, what's behind them, what's behind that.
Yes.
What's that done for you? How's that changed your life? How's that impacted the clients that you work with?
I guess the one that's right in my head is how it's impacted me recently. Um, just so much clearer about who I'm called to serve and the essence of you. Like, I maybe I'll just mention quickly. I got the opportunity to visit the Temple of the Universe, which is Michael Singer. He wrote The Untethered Soul, and he wrote the book The Surrender Experiment. So last week I got to attend a talk by him in his temple, quote unquote. What he speaks about is that who are we? And really that who we are is we're not our thoughts, we're not all the reflections that are going bouncing around, all these voices. We're kind of like the watcher behind all of it. And so anything that allows us to be curious and connect to that part of ourselves, that's the spiritual part of us that is connected to God, that's connected to love and to every spiritual being and receiving all kinds of wonderful input all the time. And so, yeah, emotions can teach us like so much about watching and being curious and uh, giving us information.
I think it's a really important principle. And if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it, The Untethered Soul. I haven't read The Surrender Experiment, but I've got it here. It's on the growing list of books to read. But this whole idea, that you can just observe your thoughts, like you're not your thoughts. You can choose which ones you attach to and which ones you let go, is really interesting because we kind of presume like we are our thoughts, like that is us. We're thinking those things, but I guess in his approach, his methodology is like, hey, well, you're not. All these thoughts are going to come and go, and the ones that you choose to attach to are the ones that are going to drive the way your life goes. So I think it's a
Yeah.
really powerful principle. What was the experience like for you being there in his presence and doing that retreat?
Well, it was just like, just so anyone knows that's read that book or wants to go see him, like he has a podcast now, and you can listen to his talks that he has on Monday nights and Thursday nights. So if you ever visit Florida in the US, right like an hour and a half north of Orlando, which is where I was last week, um, yeah, you can go out in the woods to his place, and it's like really, you just find your way there, usher yourself in, and everyone's just quiet in meditation when you walk in. I didn't speak to anyone the whole time. I was there for 2.5 hours, and most of the time we just waited for him, and I was there early because I didn't want to miss it. And then, listen to him, and then he was still asking questions when I left, and I had to get back to my kids. So yeah, I wrote him a thank you email. That was the entirety.
Sounds like a great event. Showing up, speaking to no one at all. That's that's that's
It's
pretty cool. If you want to be in your own
it is
thoughts and understand who you are, then that's good.
yeah, it was special, and it's probably I'm guessing he built it. He was definitely involved, so it's all wood, so it's simple, but it's just kind of you can tell love has been put into the building.
Amazing. Well, Kevin, you have shared so much insight with us today, and I think if you're listening, there's some really great resources that have been mentioned in the show. Then definitely check out the Emotion Code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. Definitely check out Michael Singer's work, the Surrender Experiment and the Untethered Soul. And in terms of those questions, be asking yourself, what would I regret if I got to the end of my life and I didn't do it? And I like the way you described it, Kevin. Actually, be at the end of your life and look back and think about all the things you would regret. And whatever comes up on that list, you probably want to get them onto your calendar, onto your schedule, find a way to make them happen. And
Yes.
with these emotions, which was really the core of your message today, is as these emotions come up, don't try to sit in them, feel them, and ask yourself what's behind them, what's behind that emotion. Because if we can get to the core of that, it's probably one of these thoughts that we're attaching to that's maybe not true, maybe not serving us. Maybe we can, find a new way to rewrite it, or find a different belief or perspective. Sometimes it's very feasible to do it on your own. Sometimes it's good to get support and have someone help guide you through that. Now, Kevin, if someone's listening and they would like some support or guidance in that kind of area, is that something that you can help with? And if so, where would they find you?
I always say to people, like, I only work with people I'm called to work with. So I'm definitely always down to have a conversation and see if that's for a person reaching out to me. But on LinkedIn is the easiest way to get a hold of me. You can search for Believe True or Kevin White, and Jamie White is my wife, Jaime.
Yeah, wherever you're listening, click in the show notes. Those clickable links will be there. And Kevin, thank you so much for your time today. I've really appreciated it.
Thank you. It was a privilege.
Thank you for tuning in to Leading to Profit. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. It helps us to reach more leaders like you who are committed to maximizing their positive impact and profitability. Until next time, this is Kevin Lees, and remember, you stop leaking profit when you're engaged in leading to profit.